Welcome to the Kent Lapp Podcast.
So this, I believe, is accurate for 2020 and was accurate for 2016 is my understanding.
Yeah, it's not going to change till the next census.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So then it was also accurate for
2012.
2012. So 12, 16, and 20, and now the census happened this year, and so this will change.
Right, for 24.
Okay. So when it says California 55, that basically means California has 55 votes to cast in the Electoral College, correct?
Right.
Okay. So they have the most, and then Texas is next at 38. And then New York is third at, New York and Florida are tied at 29.
Right.
Okay, so Illinois there, that's obviously they have Chicago. So they're casting 20 votes.
But take a look at Pennsylvania, also 20.
See, that was surprising to me when I saw that.
There's a lot of people live in Pennsylvania.
Is Pittsburgh bigger than I think, or is just Philly just bigger than I thought?
Philly's huge. Pittsburgh's pretty big. But really the central part of Pennsylvania, it's rural, but there's a lot of folks that live there. Pennsylvania is very populated. You've got it's positioned right between, Ohio and New York and West Virginia and Maryland and New Jersey. You have a lot of people that live in a Philly suburb but work in Jersey or New York.
Yes.
Or D.C. You can have people that commute once or twice a week to D.C. but live in Philly. Philadelphia is massive.
Well, that's interesting, too, with PA having so many people living in rural areas and how that affects this talk on fracking and the talking points of the campaigns in that state. It's not an entirely urban thing they're trying to swing there.
Right. And if you look at any state with 3, they will never have fewer than 3.
Okay.
Because you always get 2 for your senators and 1 for your representatives. So those, for example, Wyoming, North and South Dakota, Vermont, they would have, in Alaska, they would have 2 senators and then what's called a representative at large. So the representative represents the whole state.
Okay, so you're going to have 3.
You're going to have 3 no matter what.
I mean, when you compare, some of those states, like, is that Montana, the square one up there right beside Idaho?
So the square one by Idaho is Utah. And then,
no, that's North and South Dakota. Right there, Andrew. What's that one? What's that? Montana?
Wyoming.
Oh, that's Wyoming. Where's Montana? The top
right
one.
Above it.
Okay, gotcha. So wow. Look how big Montana is, and you have 3, and you compare that to California. There is so many people in California.
So many people.
Out there.
I want to say it's the 6th or 7th largest economy in the world.
It is. That's exactly what it is. It's amazing.
So what's really, something to watch is the state of Florida. 29 votes, huge. Everywhere I'm reading, again, I'm not a polling expert, says that if President Trump can't carry Florida, it is going to be almost impossible for him to carry the Electoral College. Florida is so important. You really have to win it. And Florida, for pollsters, is kind of all bets are off. No one knows what it's going to do. There's so many things at play. Think if they just passed an amendment in the last cycle to allow convicted felons that have been released from prison, so long as they've paid their fines and paid their debt to society, they get their right to vote back.
Interesting.
And that
Florida.
they amended their constitution to allow that. Then the Republican legislature passed a new bill saying that may be true, but they have to pay all these fines in advance and before they can register. And so all these people that were maybe set to vote then couldn't vote. So then you had, I think it's LeBron James and one other person, I forget, went and paid 13,000 people's fines and penalties for them so they could register to vote. There's no law against that. So then you have 13,000 people who used to be incarcerated that are now looking to vote. Is the fact that somebody like LeBron James paid for their fines going to have any sway on them and who they vote for? And when you have a state that came down to 200-something votes in 2000, 13,000 can go a long way.
For sure.
And right now, everything I'm seeing, Biden's ahead by about 2 points in Florida, meaning it's within the margin of error, so it could go either way. Some polls have Trump up a point or 2, some have Biden up a few points. But, if we talked about Pennsylvania, if Vice President Biden wins Pennsylvania, it's very likely he'll also win Florida. If he wins both of those, it's almost impossible.
Yeah.
People are even saying that Georgia's in play.
I've heard that
which I think, I'll believe it when I see it. Georgia's a very conservative state, but Atlanta is massive, and Atlanta is overwhelmingly very blue. And so, you have, who knows, that Atlanta could counteract the rest of the state on the vote, because unlike the United States, where states can, kind of overtake other states within a state, it's just a strict popular vote. So if you have one huge city that has more people than all the surrounding rural areas, then that city may control where the state goes. That's right.
Yep.
Colorado.
Denver.
Yeah.
Boulder.
Denver and
Colorado
Boulder.
Springs.
Which one is Colorado up there? Can you put your mouse on it? I think it's 5-1, right?
9. It's got the 9 on it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right.
5 is Nebraska.
Man, Colorado is that far west. Okay, 5 is Nebraska. I once drove a horse barn all the way from New York all the way out to Colorado. Went through Nebraska. Nebraska, I just remember being super flat.
Yep.
Just very, very flat and windy.
Not many trees to block the wind in Nebraska.
No. But I'm so Michigan, 16, huh?
Yeah.
Why is there so many people in Michigan?
Detroit, Lansing.
Oh, sure.
Some pretty big. Detroit's declined in population. I wouldn't be surprised if that number changed after the 2020 census.
Okay.
Especially after many of the auto manufacturers went out in 2008, 2010, 2012.
Yep.
My guess is there's a lot of those jobs are gone. People may move. I think that's going to be interesting to see what happens with the map after the next census. And then, of course, there's all these issues with the census, right? There's all these different lawsuits about, can they stop counting at a certain time because of COVID-19? The current administration doesn't want to count illegal immigrants that may live in certain cities.
Okay.
And there's a question about that. But the census is really important, not just for representation, but for getting, financial services to your city, to your state. How that money's apportioned is done based on the census. So you could have let's say you're a large city in a blue state with a lot of undocumented immigrants. You may rely on a lot of federal funding to be able to take care of those people, to cover health insurance or city services. And if all of a sudden they're not counted, your budget's going way down.
Yeah.
You're not getting nearly as much money.
Absolutely. Well, I was thinking the same thing. Where the census came out, we had a guy stop by our house probably late spring, early summer. And so it was like COVID was happening, but it wasn't like full on. And we just had a guy on the podcast, Sam, who moved from California to Tennessee because of how California is handling COVID in part. And we know this is happening for other people. So I was kind of curious how the census would have been different if, say, they would do the census next year. You would capture some of that restructuring or some of that moving around that maybe this census didn't.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it would be different. One interesting point to note is that in many ways, you have people leaving. So Montana currently has a couple of Democratic statewide elected officials, which may be surprising, but you have a lot of people leaving Washington, Oregon, California, moving to Montana. You get all these West Coast expats.
Yes.
So what's interesting is you even have that type of a flight away from the coast back towards these, nice ski areas. You've got maybe, a wealthy Democratic business owner from Los Angeles or San Francisco that wants to, he's made his money or her money. They're going to move out to, Billings, or they're going to move to Big Sky. And all of a sudden you have these people move in, and what used to be a reliably red state is now trending. Well, hang on a minute. There's these folks from California coming in.
Well, I mean, Texas is crying like, don't California or Texas. You know what I mean? And I don't think they're just speaking to the politics necessarily, but I'm sure that's a big part of it.
I mean, I think Texas is neck and neck in this election.
Which is surprising.
No, I don't think there's been a Democrat elected from the state of Texas as for president in 30, 40 years. I mean, the last prominent Democrat elected, to national politics from Texas was Lyndon Johnson.
Wow.
And so, I mean, we're talking 1960s. And actually, Lyndon Johnson said signing the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act meant he was going to lose Texas for the next generation, because Texas was a blue dog Democrat. They were, pro-segregation, in many ways, but they voted with the Democrats of the Northeast, which is why people like JFK were so conflicted. They had to cobble together this majority of Southern Democrats with kind of Northeast and Midwest Democrats. Then you had pretty much Republicans everywhere else, including in California, saying, how can you like make a deal with the devil, so to speak? Yep. And so it's interesting. So he in many ways lost Texas for a generation. They flipped parties, and then you had the big switch in 1994 in response to the Clinton presidency, and that was when Newt Gingrich took over the House, and everything flipped. So Tennessee that year went from being blue to a red state.
Oh, I see.
And a huge flip across the country.
Interesting. I didn't know Tennessee was blue that recently.
Yep.
So
up until 94.